do I have no skill in the Spanish language at all. As a matter of fact, I dropped it in college because I had no skill. Mind you, the class is there to teach us to have some sort of proficiency. I'm like, nah, I don't want this. But people come up to me and speak Spanish all the time. My dad is from the Dominican Republic, so I can get that. But
I have nothing to add to the conversation.
Your dad's from the Dominican.
I'm white. Like,
yeah, everything you say is just gonna be.
Well, no, I don't think that you guys would do that, but I mean, it's one of those deals, like, culturally right now, like, I can't really have an opinion on anything that any of you guys might go through, because I don't go through that.
I mean, we try to be not racially insensitive, because I feel like every race has their struggle, and just because, I want to say this in the most politically, fuck it, no, never mind.
You don't have to say it
politically correct. White people go through some shit, too, and, you know, they're not exempt from the human experience. Although some people believe that they are less affected by it.
Like Louis C.K. says, he can have a time machine and go back to any time period and be okay. And he's like, that's an amazing thing. He's like, and he feels as a white person that is a magical gift no other color can do.
To be totally honest, if you went back in time, I mean, let's think logically here. If you're somehow creating yourself going back in time, you're fucked either way, because you're just going to appear out of nowhere, somewhere random. If you're lucky enough to appear where there are no people around, you're still in, like, today's clothing, and today you look like you're not from there, and that's going to instantly fuck you.
And what you know, basically, is going to destroy your whole operation. You know, you might spoil the future.
I mean, I'm destroying my life right now, so it's really not...
Fuck!
Well, that's if you believe that there's only one time, and you would rewrite history rather than just creating another alternative universe.
Are we going to have some marijuana talk right now? Because we can.
No, we don't. Some marijuana talk right now? Is that what they teach you in school? Is that you have a binder that? We're just getting.
He and I didn't finish school, so.
Yeah, right. The college dropouts.
Dude, I have an associate's degree.
I'm not saying a word about it.
He has too many degrees. The guy up there, he's just, he loves school.
My wife's the one that's still in school. My wife's getting her second master's degree, so.
Like a boss. Love you, Alyssa. Yeah.
Yes, God.
Yeah, she can't hear you, but that's okay. I'll tell her that you love her.
Okay. So what's on the docket today?
Well, we can talk.
Are we gonna go right into it, which is the big it, or are we gonna wait for a little bit? Because you know Danny's gonna want to talk. That trailer dropped today.
It sure did.
Yeah. I don't know. I feel jaded because I don't really care at this point. It's not gonna be out until May. That's probably the only trailer I'm gonna watch. So I'm basically trying to not be excited right now.
I wasn't
because
excited.
I have to wait until May for it to come out.
I was excited that they finally dropped it, but I wasn't excited about the trailer. I was more excited about Black Panther than I was about this.
Oh, yeah.
That's because you're black on the inside. So Black Panther for black people is always exciting.
Bro, Black Panther.
Black Panther.
I am such a mutt, but yep.
Yes.
Black Panther. Bro.
Oh my God.
I don't know. The trailer was interesting, but I don't think that it was exciting. I kind of feel a little bit ambivalent about it. First of all, because we know more or less. I think that we know too much about the movies. Period. You know, with the whole contracts ending and some people not making it past that movie. So it's kind of like, okay, we know what's going to happen. People are going to die. Kind of. Have the whole plot going. Like there's just a lot that's not left to the imagination. So it's exciting to see all these superheroes get together, but it's a little frustrating because you know they're going to make it two parts. So it's just like we're going to watch this movie with no resolution. It's probably going to be a cliffhanger as fuck, and we're going to have to wait again.
Yeah.
Well, hey, all right. Well, just to throw this out there, Lord of the Rings did that twice,
of course,
and so did The Hobbit, and people still went to go see the second part. And the third part. So.
And the second, installment.
Yeah, that's because we're masochists for this sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Very much
Hunger
so.
Games, Twilight,
very much so.
Yeah.
Harry Potter, you know.
X-Men.
Right.
Oh, God.
Harry fucking Potter.
Oh, God.
I I think because Harry Potter was so successful is why we can do such like grandiose and big franchises. Like we can do like what we thought was unimaginable. Like if Harry Potter failed, I think none of this would have happened. Because even like X-Men was a trilogy. We didn't really see things past the trilogy.
Well, no, they made it a trilogy because it did so terribly.
Right.
That's why it's a trilogy.
That's what I'm saying. But all right, but for something
if they could have made the first X-Men movie well, they would keep making the movies. They wouldn't have rebooted it twice.
Right. But you think of it like Harry Potter is a 7-book franchise. They made 8 movies out of it, right?
Yeah. Honestly, they probably could have done 2 movies per book after like the 3rd book.
Yeah. To be fair. We wouldn't even gotten that totally for a lot of, like, any franchise, whether that be a book, comic book, or otherwise. And I think that's because of Harry Potter. Like, had Harry Potter failed, it would have stopped 2nd book.
Well, let me ask you this sort of question, and it goes back to just the structure of the book. You know, if Harry Potter wasn't such from the outset, you kind of know that this is his time, and in what seems to be a long period of time. He's in school for this amount of time, so we have to kind of see him go from one place to another. Like, had the first book chronicled his entire stay at Hogwarts, do you think it would have been as successful as breaking that entire Hogwarts experience up into, like, 7 books? You know what I mean? Like, I feel like because it was a whole journey from start to finish, they kind of had to elongate it to give it its due justice, and I feel like without the 7 books, the story wouldn't have been as important. Like, no one cares about Harry Potter if he graduates in like, well, maybe you can, I guess, but no one cares about.
I don't think it wouldn't have been as big.
Yeah, it wouldn't have been. I think that like those huge Odyssey stories are what people are really invested in. Like,
well, it's because, and you also got to remember, a lot of those books, they came out yearly, so it was like a lot of kids grabbed those books at the same age as Harry Potter and literally grew up through that book. So all they had to do was make the movie somewhat reliable to the source, and the fact that the author was involved in making the movies helped a lot with the credibility of how good it was going to be. But I mean, I know Alyssa could probably watch the movies and be like, "That's not how it really happened in the book," or they can't really do that, or it's supposed to be like this, but they changed it for the movie. But it worked so well is because you had people that had bought these huge books for 7 fucking years, and they were super pumped about them making a movie. So all they had to do was make it close to the books. Didn't even have to do it like super well.
I mean, they were good reads anyway. I'm surprised that a lot of people were.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of people in our generation became avid readers because of those books. Like, if the books were shorter, people wouldn't read as much. It's good.
True.
Like, it kind of boosted the, I guess, the ability for people to like read long books. Trust me, growing up before Harry Potter books came out, no one really liked to read long books. We were kind of over it. Mm-hmm. Now Harry Potter comes out and they're like 400 pages. That's nothing.
That's an afternoon right there.
Yeah, that's a whole day.
Yeah.
That's a whole day.
To be fair. You got the beard like stroke going on, guy. What's
up?
Oh,
sorry. Yeah, I'm thinking that's all. Oh, so is he.
You both are just doing the
listening, man.
Yeah.
It's
I'm a good looking listening person.
Mm-hmm. You know what I started
when I talk, people are like, whoa, don't do that.
Why not? You might be pretty insightful, maybe. I started to read those James Patterson, Alex Cross novels.
I used to a long time ago when he was still writing them.
No, he's still writing.
He's still writing them, but it doesn't feel like he's writing them because he's co-writing with other people, and it feels like more their stories of Alex than him. At least now.
I think that there's one coming out in December.
I haven't read since like Trials. Alex Ross, the trial book that took place with his ancestors and stuff.
That was it. I didn't get that far. I got to Roses Are Red, but I'm in like.
You're in the thick of. Yeah. It's still good. It's still the good. The good meaty bits of Alex.
There's Ross. There's a series you guys should check out. It just finished, I think, last year. 2016. October 2016 was the last book came out. It's called The Passage, and it's this really crazy. It's a 3-part novel series, but the first one was the one that really kind of pulled me in. Was it bases on this? This expedition finds an ancient disease in like the heart of like the Bolivian like rainforest or something like that, and it cures cancer. It enlarges the thyroid, I think. Yeah, the thyroid. I can't remember exactly what it is, but it basically gives you, if you can infect people the right way with it, it gives them a super, super long lifespan, like 1,000 years. Huh. Yeah. But unfortunately, they decided to test it on 12 death row inmates, and the virus turned them into like these monsters, like vampires, but think like jacked up vampires that are. I always think of them sort of like a mix between like a hard shelled, like humanoid, I guess. What's the Venom always comes to mind when I think of what these things essentially are.
Okay.
Well, they're not symbiotes, but they look like they have that appearance. But they look almost sort of like bugs with the big fucking eyes and these huge fucking mouths with teeth and the hard exoskeleton. It turns them into, and they get let loose, and it destroys the fucking planet essentially. And it picks up 92 years later with this girl that wasn't there at the beginning. She was infected with it, and it bonded with her the right way. And she's like leading them. It's crazy. It's like vampires, but not like Dracula vampires. And it's really interesting.
Noted. I am going to look that up now.
Justin Cronin. The Passage by Justin Cronin. Mm-hmm. It's addicting. Like I sat down. It was 800 pages, I think, was the first book. And I'm a slow reader, and it took me a little less than a week to read it.
Couldn't put it down, huh?
Yeah.
No, I really couldn't. The other series I'd suggest is the Red Rising series. That's another good one. They're a little bit smaller in size, but the story is really good. I was telling you about it at NYCC.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The author was at NYCC, and I actually Alyssa got me a loot crate that is that theme, that series themed. It comes with a special edition version of the new book and shit. It's gonna be awesome. I'm excited.
When you said Red Rising, for some reason I was thinking about some other sci-fi things, and I was reading a while back these Mass Effect novels by Drew. I forget how to pronounce his last name, but yeah, the author of those Mass Effect novels. Some of them are actually pretty good, and they add to the lore of Mass Effect. I'm a big Mass Effect fan. Big Mass Effect fan.
Never played.
What? You're missing out.
Dude, I do so many other things. It's one of those deals. If I play a video game, that's all I'm gonna do.
You kind of have to be like invested in them. But Mass Effect is what, like 10 years old now? The original game.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, the 4th game is trash. Don't do it. The first 3 are actually.
Wow, you're like one of the. Well, I've heard mixed things, but better than worse about the Andromeda game.
Okay, let me school on some of this. First, okay, Mass Effect Andromeda did a lot of things right. In terms of gameplay. Very, very few things right in terms of the story and the lore and the universe. So it feels like a separate, unrelated, distant cousin that takes place in the same franchise. It's almost kind of like Fantastic Beasts and How to Find Them in the Harry Potter universe.
Okay.
I mean, quality withstanding, but you know,
fair enough.
They happen in the same kind of universe with the same kind of ideas and things, and some of them even happen almost simultaneously. Like Mass Effect Andromeda kind of happens between Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3, but the premise of the game is basically that there's a human initiative, amongst other initiatives, that are leaving Earth to find a new planet to inhabit outside of the Milky Way galaxy. So they find one, and it takes them so long to get there. It takes them like 600 years to get there. so that by the time Mass Effect 2 and Mass Effect 3 transpires, the events are already over. So you can't go back and jump back into the original Mass Effect universe because it's so far apart. Like, it's completely unrelated. But you know, they jump to this planet and they try to inhabit it and they encounter all these problems and all these things. But I don't love the characters. I don't love.
What is it that draws you to a character versus draws you to a story?
I mean, the best examples that I can give in the Mass Effect kind of span is the characters seem to have a lot of.
Guy says he's a character. I think that's what this. He's like, I'm a character.
Oh,
boobs, sure.
Boobs are great.
Yeah. You know, in video games, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. These characters in Mass Effect, for me at least.
Checkmate.
The characters in Mass Effect, at least, kind of they're compelling characters because they have motivations that aren't simple, and they have issues that are not simple. With the exception of Jacob, I think that Jacob in Mass Effect 2 is probably the most normal player, and it almost makes him seem boring by comparison. That's why no one likes Jacob, because he's not as fucked up as everybody else. For real. And he's the only black character that you can play with, right?
Oh, okay.
But he's normal. Like, he doesn't have any hang-ups about anything. He's not like an abandoned, shipwrecked pirate. None of that. He's just completely normal. His dad is just missing. That's it. You get what I'm saying? He's not genetically enhanced.
That's so like,
yeah, he's
dad missing, but no big deal.
And I love him for it, except that gameplay-wise he's a little bit redundant. But his character is just compelling because in the universe and in the galaxy, compared to all these aliens who have issues and all these humans who are genetically modified to have issues and all these space captains and people who have gone through all these things militarily, socially, politically, whatever, Jacob is extremely normal. He is extremely normal. He's just on the wrong side of things, and then he comes around and then he solves his daddy issues, and then he's normal. He gets married, he has his whole other life, and then that's it. I love Jacob. But these characters, you fall in love with them based on how they interact with each other, what they want from each other, and I think that that kind of draws you. I think that the most powerful relationships are the ones with Commander Shepard and Liara, and Commander Shepard and, for me, Caden Alenko.
Okay.
But it's an amazing Space Odyssey game. The gameplay is very good. The stories that you can make are based on the choices that you make. So, you know, you can completely be a dick to everyone, and people can hate you, and people can be disloyal to you. Or in the second game, especially, you can take part in a suicide mission, and pretty much everyone can either survive or die based on how loyal they are to you. If a person isn't loyal to you, it's almost guaranteed that they're not going to survive that mission. But you can change that. You can even die yourself, as a matter of fact. If you die in Mass Effect 2, that's kind of the end of it. It's such a good game. I would recommend it to anybody who has time to play.
Okay.
I'm going to ask the same question to Lawrence and Tom. What do you guys think? Well, the first question was, what do you like about either books or games that draw you to them? The storyline or the characters, or what? Tell me your thoughts.
For me, it has to deal with both pacing for stories. Like, it has to move at a pace that doesn't seem like it's dragging and so overly detailed that I'm getting lost in the details and not knowing anything else that's going on. For instance, my sister-in-law recommended a long time ago, I think I still have it, the Godfather book. I couldn't read it for the life of me. Even to this day, I can't read it. As well written as it is, it's one of those books that details and describes every specific thing fully, and I don't feel like I'm actually moving through the story.
Even the movie is kind of a long drag.
Right, where like I feel like let me fill in some of the details. Let me imagine, the rest of it. With video games and with shows or movies, it's harder to let your imagination kind of run wild, if you will, because they're providing me all that. But with a book, give me just enough detail to give me an idea of what the universe could be that I'm in, and I'll fill the details with the rest of my imagination as we go along. And then with characters, it's just, a matter of not seeming boring, not seeming like they're like one-dimensional or just very cookie cutter. And to be fair, like, for instance, so I read a thing on, I think, Otaku or whatever the case was, but My Hero Academia does a really good job at taking character tropes and making, like, the very plain-ish characters. Like, those characters fit well in that universe, but had you taken them and put them into other shows, they would have been lost. They wouldn't have been main characters, or they wouldn't be characters that you feel like are memorable. And that's what I look for. I look for characters that, even if they're the smallest character or detail, they're something that I can remember and they'll stick with me. But I think that's really what grabbed. Like, even with the Alex Cross books, I was like intrigued because my brother, Zayas' dad, got me into them. I was like, yo, pick this up. It's a fast read. Each chapter is just like, it pulls you slow, but it's like a really quick reading. You're just like, I can do another chapter. And then you realize that you're like 30 chapters in, and you're just like, yo, there's so much shit going on. Like, he's, going through so much, or you're learning so much about his family.
You start to care about them. Like, I care about Alex.
You start to invest in characters because it's happening so fast that you don't realize that you are as pulled in. When something drags on too long, it's one of those, like, pivotal things where if you don't get pulled in within a certain amount of time, you're not going to get pulled in. So that, for me, is, like, a really crucial thing. Like, seeing characters that I can relate to or I can sympathize or empathize with, like, really do it for me. Especially in series where, like, there's a good villain. Like, Alex Cross series has really good villains.
The masterminds are fucking
like, it's there's certain villains where you're just like, they're so bad, and you realize, like, they're horrible. But because they're so well written, you kind of just you don't root for them, but you kind of want to see what they're capable of. You kind of want to see how they evolve and how they're going to challenge that main character. Is he this main character that's only the main character and it's only cool and relatable because he always wins, or he's able to overcome, like, this great obstacle that's in front of him?
Hell yeah.
You're like, yeah.
I can dig it.
I love that.
I can dig
Everything he said did that.
Yeah. Honestly, for me, if the premise doesn't catch me right away, then I honestly, I won't. I'll probably read it eventually, but it won't be like, ooh, I think I have to get that book. In
Premise as in concept?
Yeah, just the premise of the book. Like, oh shit! I wish I had a fucking. Hold on, 2 seconds. Actually,
take your time, but hurry up.
Take your time, but hurry up. Well, I mean, the way that the passage was introduced to me was by a friend. I was working overnights at a grocery store, and one of my buddies, who was a really, really big history nerd and loved reading books, he was the one who got me into podcasts. He said, "Oh, you got to read this book I'm reading right now. It's called The Passage. It's about this." He's like, basically what I said. It's an ancient disease that turns people into fucking vampires, but if they infect you the right way, it gives you, life and strength and all these different abilities and all this shit. He's like, and then the main character is this little girl who's 8 years old at the beginning of the book, and then 92 years later, she's only aged to the age of 13, and she doesn't know how to speak because she hasn't seen a human in almost 100 years. And then she just shows up at this colony and all this shit happens. And that's really all he told me. He's like, you gotta read it, it's crazy. She just speaks with her mind.
That's crazy.
So if the premise...
That's like an elevator pitch, like where people are just like, give me enough to pull me in without giving me any...
Give me the premise of the book.
Yeah.
You know, like Red Rising is... Humanity has evolved into... has been genetically adapted and evolved into different tiers, and the sigils that you have on the tops of your hands, and which essentially gives you it's a color structure. So like the reds are miners, and then I think it's like the whole spectrum of the rainbow. The golds are the one that are on top. And Red Rising is about this character that infiltrates the high society of the golds and brings down the leaders of the government and kills everybody from the inside.
Spoiler alert.
Well, I mean, that's pretty much what you got to try and figure out, but how he does it, I'm not saying when he does it, but...
Oh, no, I mean, that's pretty
obviously, he's going to do it.
Yeah,
like, will he succeed? Well, yeah, the book wouldn't have gotten written. The story wouldn't be that good if he didn't succeed.
Well, actually, I find that a lot of books are being written and published about people failing. Like the original I Am Legend, he kind of dies at the end of the book. And if you've ever seen Limitless, the movie, the original book, The Dark Fields, is not a happy ending. The guy dies. He's a drug addict and he dies at the end. But it's very, very different from the happy ending that you get in the movie.
Yeah.
Even in Divergent, in the last book, I don't know if you've all read this or seen the movies. The main character Trish actually dies at the end of the third book. So the story becomes at some point the story stops being told about from her.
Hunger Games doesn't really have a happy What bugged me out was after 2.5 really intense books, that last book, Katniss just what did you work all this time for? You end up with Peter, you don't end up with this kid. You're everything just ended up being almost for nothing.
I wouldn't say that. I mean, the conclusion to the Hunger Games is pretty dire. It was also very, very interesting in the way that it turned out. In the book, you kind of learn that Katniss, first of all, before the Hunger Games, she's almost always had trust issues with people. Mm-hmm. And you can't really tell who she loves except when it comes to her sister. And maybe her father. And of course her father, because her father is a big part of her narrative.
Yeah.
So beyond that, it's very, very hard for you to kind of gather who she has affections for. Because she questions it all the time. Do I like Gale? Or what happens if, I fall in love with Peter instead? You know what I'm saying?
Right.
For her, I think Gale told her to pick the person you can't live without. And it has nothing to do with love at all. I think that Katniss kind of finds a partner in Peter because she can't live without him, specifically because they've helped each other survive for so long.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a love in that, but I think that it's not as romantic as people might think.
It's not romantic love.
It's not romantic at all, and it was just more jarring because I felt at the end I was yo, just pick Gale. That's the dude who's been in your corner vying for you. Peter's over here back and forth.
I mean, the difference between Peter and Gale is mountains and molehills. Peter's a better character than Gale for Katniss, specifically because he's been fighting. Well, he's been fighting more closely at her side and has sacrificed more for her than any other character in the book, with the exception of Cinna and maybe Haymitch.
Okay.
So Gale has been by her side, but not as directly, like, not when it mattered the most. You get what I'm saying? Like, Gale hasn't really sacrificed as much. Sure, he's gotten in trouble to kind of, like, help Katniss, but those aren't the same caliber of sacrifices, you know what I mean? So, I didn't really like Peter at first, because I thought that, like, his character was a little flat. And his motivations are very, very simple. So, he loves Katniss, he wants to make sure he protects her at all costs, and that's nice. But you don't really have enough motivation to even really care too much about yourself. So it makes him a kind of like a plot device, if you will. You get what I'm saying? Like Katniss only survives because of him. Okay. Only survives because of him. Specifically because of him. So, I feel like he's more of a plot device to help her deal with the situations around her, the Hunger Games, her PTSD, her parents, the district that she comes from, you know what I'm saying? Like her poverty or whatever the case is, like he's there to kind of like help her cope with those things in the world around her. Without her, she'd be a wreck just like everyone else. I mean, she winds up being a wreck anyway, because at the end of the book, she still has like terrible PTSD. She still has issues dealing with, sleeping at night and trusting people and getting over the things that she's had to do, the loss of her sister and her parents and her town or whatever the case is. But Peter kind of helps her manage that to make it less sad almost. It almost makes it kind of like she's going to be okay. But it's not like a happy ending. It's almost kind of like a very, very bleak ending with it's bittersweet almost. I don't know. I really appreciated those books, but it's not a glamorous ending at all. Fair.
I will say with the two novels that I recommended, the two series, is the ending is not overly happy in nature. There's some crazy shit that goes down, especially, for both of them, it's some really fucked up, like, both within the last, like, maybe 50 pages, you think something, like, okay, this is going to be a somewhat happy ending, and then all of a sudden something happens, and you're like, fuck.
There it goes.
You're like, oh, okay, well, they still did what they had to do, but no, this wasn't how it's supposed to. This wasn't the way it was supposed to turn out. This is supposed to be happy at the end. This is bullshit.
Oh, damn.
But it's good. I like it.
Because those stay with you for a long time. I think that I'm more stuck on books that are like ended kind of not poorly, but ended like in a way that you don't expect. That kind of that makes them last with you for a long time.
Well, it's more along the lines of, like you said, you get attached to these characters and you hope for the best outcome for them. You want them to have a happy ending because of all the shit that you just read that they've gone through. All of this shit, and you're just like, well, just give them a happy ending. They deserve it. They went through all this shit, and then when it doesn't happen, you're almost like, but that's what makes the story so good, because they don't give you the happy ending. They don't give you what you want, but you still get what you need for the story to come to a logical conclusion. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's almost, I've played some games like that too. Like Crisis Core, Final Fantasy VII, stays with me for the rest of my life. It's the saddest game I've almost ever played in my life. If you've ever played Crisis Core, have you ever played it?
I've seen it play. I honestly, I'm not a Final Fantasy. You know this about me though.
Yeah, I know, but not all of them are really terrible. Like
no. I'm not to say that like Final Fantasy is a terrible game. It's more for me that I just grew up not playing those games. Like I was never introduced to those games until I was older.
Oh,
and by the time like I was introduced to them, I wasn't sure how, when, or why to jump in.
Oh no, I didn't really play any Final Fantasy games until I was in my adolescence, because Final Fantasy, Crisis Core at least, is not turn-based like all the other Final Fantasy games. So it's a lot more accessible to play. It's a lot more fun to play. A lot more action-oriented, and it's good. It really is good. But when you kind of get attached to the characters and you see what happens at the end, first of all, oh God, I was brought to tears. Because the end of the game, you literally watch the characters that you've become attached to, like
2 tears.
Exactly. Plural. You watch the character die. You fight in this fight, and the people that you're fighting against have like unlimited HP, and so you hit them for all this damage and they don't die, but the character progressively gets more and more tired. So you see them swinging the sword a lot slower, and you see them kind of like struggling, like not recovering as much. And in the game, there's like there's a system in which it grants you kind of like bonuses per turn. It's almost like a slot machine. And it serves as his memories. So you see him dying because he starts to like have flashbacks. Like his life starts to flash before his eyes in the middle of this impossible. It's the saddest scene you'll ever see. And it was for PSP like 8 years ago. It's so sad.
Right.
So sad. But that those kind of stories, those kind of stories and those kind of characters stay with you forever.
Oh yeah, those are the best kinds of stories anyway.
Mm-hmm. That begs the question if 2 Chainz actually wears 2 chains.
Doesn't he?
I think he does.
Wow, my mind has exploded. I don't even know what that is.
I'm pretty sure 2 Chainz wears 2 chains.
Oh my god, I'm done for the day.
I would find it funny if he just never wore chains. Like he was like, I'm gonna name myself 2 Chainz and just never wear chains.
No chains. I ain't got no chains.
He's like,
what do you chains for?
He's like all these invisible chains.
I am the chains.
I am the chains.
Oh no.
Awful.
I am the chains.
Did you all see this latest episode of Dragon Ball Super?
I don't think they watch Super.
You don't watch Dragon Ball?
No. So here's
No,
how it works.
I don't.
Okay.
No.
Guy watches anime.
Uh-huh.
But he's still like getting into a lot of shows. Tommy watches like 3 different animes.
That's it?
Maybe. Oh no,
I mean, well,
not. It's limited. He's more.
It's nothing against the genre. It's just I have such ADD with things, and I usually it'll be one of those things like today I binged like 6 hours of 7 Deadly Sins because I was like, fuck, I gotta see how it ends now. And that's how it is with all of them. Like when I watched Attack on Titan, that was how it was. I'm like, god damn it, I got to fucking watch another one. The fuck? Why is this fight taking 6 episodes? Shit.
Oh god.
Yeah.
And then that and I think maybe I think it's just then this sounds terrible me saying like this, but it's like it will sound terrible. Like the cultural type thing, it more along the lines of like with Attack on Titan, one of the scout regiments getting fucking ripped apart, and there's this dude just standing on a roof who can go and try and kill the fucking Titan or at least save his friend, and he's having like an attack of conscience for like 20 minutes where he's like, oh, I don't think that I can do this. I'm gonna die here now. It's like, well, yeah, if you're just gonna die, you might as well try and help your friends, you fucking asshole. Like, why are you just standing there? You're not doing anything. All you're doing is killing everybody. Just go at least try and save them. That's what bothers me the most about watching anime. I fucking hate it.
No, I'm gonna tag you in. Tag.
Tag? No tag.
No,
tag back.
Just took my tag back.
Tag back.
I'm so like, damn, that's crazy. Like, you asshole. Like, just go jump because I would totally be that dude. Like, I would look at the person who's thinking about it and just do it and like walk past them with like side eye. I'd be like, just go. Like, what are you doing?
Well, it's just as the bystander of this whole thing. Like, I understand people freeze and shit like that, but it's like, come on, dude. You're really gonna devote time to this dude having an attack of conscience when he knew what the fuck he was gonna get into.
So like the dialogue,
but he's not stoic. It's not stoic. It's literally him pissing himself, talking about how he thinks he's useless and he's ashamed of his cowardice and he wants to die. And I'm thinking like, well, if you really want to die and you want to not feel like a coward, why don't you at least just throw yourself at the Titan? Maybe you'll fucking kill him. Maybe you'll be a hero.
I feel like
Jesus, if you want to die, just go for it. Like, fuck it. What do you have to lose?
I feel like you and I are the type of people at people in scary movies. Like, why are you going into the house?
Yeah, like seriously.
Where did that noise come from? I'm gonna go check it out.
Why are you going to investigate?
Don't go that way.
It's the anime tropes.
Yeah, the tropes
that kill me.
I mean, literally, in terms of a literary, concept, it makes sense to have these expositions of character, but they're not entertaining. Like, especially for characters that don't really matter. Like, you have an attack of conscience on screen for like an episode or two, and you wind up being a complete side character with no depth or development. After this, it's just like, why did I watch you do this whole monologue? Because you don't.
For you to now be a waste of space.
They do it all the time. And in some
just bothers the ever living shit out of me.
Yeah, they do it all the time in some of my favorite cartoons, especially growing up watching cartoons like Yu-Gi-Oh, for example, where these characters have these ideas and these thoughts and these motivations, and they wind up amounting to nothing. Because they're relegated to the side character or some sort of plot device to wait until the main characters get there to solve the problem. It's just like, you could have had a lot of interesting characters, but you don't. Like, even Joey, for example, he's sort of a primary character, except he's not good enough to be a primary character.
It sucks because Joey is a great character, but like
they shaft him all the time.
He basically becomes by default the Vegeta of that like universe, where like they just like he's as good as the main character, but because he's not the main character, he's never going to be that. He's never going to get that recognition of character.
You were still talking. I just wanted to see how long it would take for you to do this. I'm looking at him and I'm looking back at the other one. Oh, which one's going to happen?
Speaking of Vegeta, before we get started,
yeah.
fucking
so like I was saying, like they don't watch Super. Guy watches like I got him into Hunter x Hunter.
Guy loves Hunter x Hunter.
Yeah, My Hero Academia.
And about himself in third person.
But yeah, for any of you joining us, we've talked about a lot of this, the animes, like Hunter x Hunter, Dragon Ball Super, Seven Deadly Sins, on the anime group for Inbion.
It's just one viewer.
Can I just say, I don't even give a shit. Don't fucking care. Don't care. Honestly, like this is, I'm cool with. I'm witnessing all of this, so I really don't give a shit. I'm witnessing.
I'm sorry.
Why are you so confused?
Dude, there's an inside joke with Life and Me that I'm just confused about everything.
Guys are like
Yes to it. They're like all in chat. Like I feel like they have telepathy because they're all like, "Oh, I got exactly what you just said," and then I'll put a question mark, and they're like, "Oh, guy." I'm like, "No, I really don't get the thing you just said." They don't explain it. They just go, "Oh, guy," and like sign off.
That's awful. No.
Oh, I'm sitting there like twice confused.
No, to be fair,
true. It's true.
I feel
I'm not
like
denying it.
I feel like I give you a second because I know you're. Yeah. I mean, you do shit like that, but you're smarter than you give yourself credit for. No.
We are terrible at math.
Oh.
You know?
Wait.
Start this. Want to start this right now?
I
mean, I don't have a
But yeah, I know.
Guys,
I'm not starting anything. I'm
what's
just.
your favorite drink?
You said.
What's your favorite drink?
I was agreeing with you.
Guys, what's your favorite thing to drink? No, you're a liar. Because he spills lemonade all the time.
First of all, Coke is, in my opinion,
Pepsi?
Yes,
Pepsi,
Coke.
yeah, but that's a black people thing. That's terrible, right? That's a black people thing. It's Pepsi.
No, Coke is way better. Coke is way better.
You like Coke better?
I like Coke better.
I don't know.
Okay.
This is an age-old discussion. Coke goes well with pizza, but that's about it.
I think Coke and Pepsi should be segregated.
They are.
They are?
They are. They have different sections.
Yeah. Don't worry about it.
Oh my god.
Don't worry about it. I mean,
Yeah.
to be fair, Coca-Cola products are better than some Pepsi products. I'll admit that. Sprite is much better than a lot of things that Pepsi offers. So,
I like regular Coke and I like the vanilla Coke. But I really like, and Surge. Surge over Mountain Dew, honestly.
they're all nasty. Well, no, Sierra Mist is awful. Mountain Dew is bearable in comparison.
A lot of stuff is like the sad hand jobs of
Dude, I don't know. Have any of you guys tried the?
Time out. Oh, we can say whatever we want on this cast. On this cast,
hand check right now.
We are. Wait, Tommy, you have to say it. What are the Geek Ronin? Why are we Ronin now? Why are we Geek Ronin?
Because we have no master.
That's right.
We do not serve anybody except ourselves. So go fuck yourself.
Mm-hmm. On our screen and on the screen of everyone watching, the man right there in the big box, right there. Yep, look at him. There you go, perfect. It's like the Brady Bunch.
Here's the story
of a man named Brady versus a lovely lady.
A lovely lady? Oh, yeah.
What comes first, a man named Brady or a lovely lady?
I don't know. Probably a lovely lady.
Probably.
Ladies first.
Well, I am neither lovely nor a lady, so.
No comment.
Here's a story of a lovely lady who was bringing up to be very lovely girls. That's it.
Why do you know that?
Because he's guy.
Like, literally, there's no explanation other than he's guy.
I just did to myself. I made no talking.
I made no talking.
It's fine.
You guys know where the beach is? That way.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, yeah.
It's over there. Oh, yeah.
I'm okay.
I'm having my Cheetos. You guys go fuck yourselves. I'm okay.
Those are cheese doodles, Kyle.
I'm drinking beer.
Yeah.
So
I can't math or read basic English. Anyway,
it's all good.
That's a basic sentence instruction.
I'm just gonna look this way away from you.
As a child, you should be able to know what
grammatically incorrect as fuck, but it's still the right sentence instruction. So 2 points for you.
I'm gonna look away because I never face my problems.
4 points to Gryffindor.
Yes.
Oh my god.
What would you guys be if you were a Harry Potter? Which
Hufflepuff. I've been selected Hufflepuff.
I've taken 3 tests.
We're not talking about
Pottermore is the only one that's acceptable.
Apparently, I am. Hold on. I can't remember. The first one I took told me I was a Ravenclaw. The second one I took told me I was a Hufflepuff. Then the third one told me I was a Gryffindor.
I see Ravenclaw.
Did you answer the same way each time?
Where is this?
Yes.
Let me take this.
But I've also come to the conclusion that I'm more Hufflepuff.
Come in. Alyssa's gonna join us for a second because we're talking Harry Potter. And Alyssa.
Hey, it's my sister.
You can speak into this microphone. You don't have to yell. It's pretty good. I know. What would Law be if he was in a house? He said he got selected into 3 different houses.
I would definitely say Gryffindor is my first choice.
There you go. She would know. She's much better at it than I am.
My Potterheads have 2 of my really big Potterheads have put me into Hufflepuff.
Really?
Yeah.
I don't know. You just strike me as a Gryffindor.
Really?
Really?
Yeah.
Pourquoi, mon frère?
I don't know. Like, I'm so confused now. I need to take that test over again.
Where is it?
I don't know, because you have to take the Pottermore quiz, because the Pottermore quiz is correct, always.
But the Pottermore was the official one, but before that, just before they made Pottermore, there was 2 others that were the official until that became official. Because Pottermore is recent, right? Like, it only 2 or 3 years ago, came out?
Yeah. It was about that, and you can get sorted into your Hogwarts or your Ilvermorny house, and they're usually pretty accurate. I mean, I haven't come across one person who claims their Pottermore house was not dead on.
What's yours?
Ravenclaw.
She's a Ravenclaw, yeah. What?
Have been since age 11.
What are you talking?
She's one of the people that grew up reading the Harry Potter series.
I'm obsessed and I know way too much about Harry Potter.
You can never know way too much.
This is true. This is so true.
It's not true, guy. It's not true.
Not.
Don't
Not
discourage
true.
her. Let her
It
be
is
great.
true. I like Guy. Guy's my new favorite. Sorry, La.
Let her be great.
Just kidding. I love you. Come visit us soon, please.
Also, I took my shirt back from Zayas from last Boston Comic Con. I finally got
It
it.
only took you a couple of years.
Right? Oh man, I came to Thanksgiving and I was like, yo, if that shirt is not in my hand, we're fighting. And he left it on the bed for me, so
I'll take this.
What house would I be in?
Ooh.
I don't know. I don't know you as much as I know La.
I just want you. I asked the question. All four of you, quiet for about 3 seconds.
I'm trying to think here.
All just went.
I know you. I would say
Hufflepuff.
probably Hufflepuff.
Yeah.
That's what I would have said.
You would probably go Hufflepuff.
I agree
I would think
because I'm
so.
a minority here.
I usually give unless I'm absolutely certain, 100%. I usually give two, a choice between two because I'm like, you're either this or this, and I can't really decide.
Because she gets asked this question
I
10
do.
times a day.
I might as well be a damn Sorting Hat for all I care.
No.
Everyone has to do that.
Yeah,
I just told you I didn't give you a choice.
Everyone's like 4 people.
Everyone's like 4 people.
No.
Many.
Everyone.
More than
Okay, 5.
5.
I bet you're a Puckwudgie for Ilvermorny House. You can quote me on that. Puckwudgie. It's one of the Ilvermorny houses, the American Wizarding School.
Wait.
I'm a Thunderbird.
Oh, Larice is up. She said, I know people here. Hi to you all. Nice to meet you. New people I don't know. Hi, I'm Larice, Lawrence's sister.
Hey,
Hey, Larice.
I'm
What's
sorry.
Up? Got people back in the chat. Gotta pay attention.
No,
Chat.
I'm not used to this.
I
I was called in for a
I don't do
special
this for
favor.
the chat. Well,
Yes.
yeah. No, you weren't called in. You weren't called in. You literally.
We had to call the lefty and
And she opened the door and said, stuck her hand, goes, Harry Potter.
I heard someone say Hufflepuff, and I'm like, what are they doing?
Harry Potter? What?
And so then I bow
But
out.
I feel like you give enough good commentary for stuff that you should guest commentate on our podcast anyways sometimes. Can I request every once in a while a 15-minute segment of Alyssa just popping her head in randomly and then just coming in and then just be like, alright, that's it. My time is done. Bye.
It has to be about something that I'm obsessed with. So Harry Potter,
It's
Lord of the
4
Rings.
things.
Yeah.
Fixer Upper.
You're
I
right.
don't know.
You're obsessed with
House
4
Hunters.
things.
That 70 show. Shut up.
I love House Hunters.
Say yes to the dress.
One of my
Not-
friends works
That can be your new
at
best
that-
friend. He
at
loves
the
House Hunters.
Thank God.
bridal shop that one of my
If
friends
I
works
had
at
a
the
quarter
bridal
for
shop
every
where
time
Say Yes to
someone
the Dress
said
is.
thank God for me being their best friend, I'd have 0 quarters.
Now you have one.
Yeah, now
You
I
are
have.
25% richer.
Jeez, dude.
Yes, Larice, that is Tommy's wife.
Have you used any Harry Potter pickup
Tommy,
lines for?
talk in the chat.
No, he's not smart enough for that.
Yes.
There's one that you could use that I'll tell you later so you can impress us. It's a very good one. So I'm gonna give it to you later off screen. Just saying.
Bro.
Deal.
Bro.
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 Black Panther.
Pap.
Black Panther.
Black Panther.
Black Panther.
I am wearing a Hogwarts shirt right now.
Yeah,
to put
and
this
it's
into
it's
perspective.
misspelled. There's a typo on
My
it too.
father made a grievous error last Christmas and purchased fraudulent merchandise.
Oh my god! Wait! I have to see it now. We need to see
It
the
says
social-
Ravenclaw instead of Ravenclaw.
I don't know where it is.
Right there.
Right there.
Oh no!
I was like, Dad, I can't wear this out in public, but I'll keep it for pajama shirt
Right? Yeah,
I-
absolutely.
if you buy me another one.
I just bought my girlfriend Jackie the Marauder map on a sweater. It's all over this.
Oh, yes.
It's super cool.
I
And
have...
10 feet away from me, I have a Sirius Black's wand.
Nice.
Nice.
I want Remus Lupin's wand so bad. He's my favorite character.
Yeah, he is a really good character.
Yes, I miss him so much.
What's his
Spoilers.
look like?
Just kidding.
I mean,
I
I'm
have
looking
too much Harry Potter things. It would take me too long to name all of them, and I know
Please,
Tom doesn't
God,
want me to.
Don't.
Tom,
For the love of
your best friend needs to hear it.
I have so many things.
Oh, I like the wand. It's simple. I'm great at it. It's nice.
What?
I got quiet again every time I can. Just
I feel like his face just skipped like you were, and then a little bit. It's fine. That's fine. Right.
This is live, by the way.
I know.
Right, okay. Just making sure.
Oh yeah, we're doing great.
We're doing great.
Yes, we are.
2 tears happened. Just to
there were 2 tears. There were literally 2 tears. Multiple tears.
Plural.
No,
Plural.
just say it.
Plural.
Oh my god.
I don't know what we're doing.
Oh my god. Plural.
Two plurals.
Oh my god.
But she's
Okay, bye.
She's gonna. All right, she's never coming back.
No.
All right.
That's not true. I will come back. You've just gone beyond where I can fall.
Right.
It's all good.
I love you, La.
Love you.
Love you too, Guy.
New best friend.
Can you see it?
I
Yes,
do.
new best friend, for sure.
Guy, I need you to stop stealing my friends.
What?
Nothing.
Okay, it's not me though.
Did you just make a backhanded compliment or something?
Absolutely.
Probably.
I didn't hear it. I heard something about best friend.
Also, you want me all the time.
Oh.
This is an ongoing
Now-
joke. This is an ongoing joke. This is an ongoing joke from yesterday's conversation.
Oh.
Literally, we were saying bye to each other. I was like, okay, bye. Text me when you get home. What? And I was like, huh? It was like, what? And the whole time I was like, you guys never, how do you guys have a conversation? You guys never listen to what each other's saying. We're just going, huh? What? We're the
Dude,
we're the
that's
couple.
like, I don't know. Honestly, that's how most of my conversations are. Huh? Yeah? Uh-huh. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I can do that. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. Love you too. Yeah. Yes, I remember. Yes, thank you. All right. Thanks, Mom. All right, bye.
My mom likes to, well, not purposely, but I feel like my conversations with my mom towards the end kind of resemble those. It's just like, oh, I'll call you back. And I'm like, okay. Love you.
Well,
love you too. I'll speak to you later. Okay. All right.
But
Later.
that's my wife.
Do
That's
they
my
think
wife.
where,
I call her mom
where
all
they're
the
like-
time because she
they're
just
like,
tells me what to do.
bye, but then like they go, okay, bye. I gotta go do X, Y, Z, and then they tell you about how like something happened, and they're like, well, I have to like have the guys coming in to fix the house tomorrow. And
That's great.
why I'm
All right,
going
I'll
to-"
talk to you later. Bye.
Right. Well, you can't hang up because that'll be rude. So you're just like,
Yeah, you can. You can be like, I'm sorry. You said bye, so I was like, yep, see you later. Bye. Quick. That's how I say goodbye to people on the phone. You tell me goodbye, I'm gonna end the conversation.
Oh.
Right. Well, he'll hang up right away.
Okay. Yep. Bye. Click.
I don't have these problems because I have no friends. So
Oh.
Oh.
It's not a lie. I mean,
it's not.
Damn!
That's why I
don't
said it.
even work here.
Because
Right?
I-
well,
what type-
remember, he's terrible at
special
math.
guest,
He's
and we
terrible
have-
at math.
we have
So
him in, like, the
he
craziest
thinks
episode
all
right
of us
now.
are zero. So I mean, his concept of numbers is just off.
Yeah.
True.
So for everyone who can't see what we're doing, all right, have a great day. Bye. I love you.
Also, did we introduce you
I'm gonna have
to
my
the
kudos.
world?
Probably not, but that's okay.
Um,
I'll do it. Oh, wow. What the? Hello?
It's Tommy. It's Tommy. Oh my god. We're introduced like an hour into the episode. Introduce yourself, Mr. If you guys tuned into the last live stream, Demetrius here was heavily into the conversation.
Oh,
So,
yeah, it was
after a lot of pulling, I finally got him with us.
It wasn't really.
So my name's Demetrius.
Yeah,
It's not.
thank you so much. My name is Demetrius Lane. Law and I are very good friends. Let's see, what can I say about myself? I'm a singer and I'm a songwriter. I do have a Facebook and an Instagram page. You can follow me at Demetrius Lane. It will be somewhere in the comments somewhere.
We'll drop it.
I'm from the Bronx. I dabble here and there. And yeah. What the hell is that? Oh yes, you do play.
Yeah. So basically we have a singer, songwriter, we have a musical plethora of like knowledge.
I dab on the triangle and the cowbell, guys.
Sure. And then we have the engineer over here to put it all together.
Yeah, but I also play music too.
You do? I actually, yes.
I have several guitars. I play guitar. I've been playing guitar for like
He's
10, 15 years.
He's a very good band, by the way. That I need more stuff from.
We'll see. We'll figure that out.
Oh,
we need to record first, so, and that means we have to spend money.
Wow. Yes. The age-old, yep, we were just talking about
that. Much easier, probably at least, not easier, but less expensive to have no instruments as opposed to having a full kit and everything else that's going on with a band. So, a little bit more expensive.
Yeah,
all right, Jabba. Well, what the fuck? Cornholio over here.
Right, I need to be for my bunghole.
Keep it for my bunghole.
I don't know if Danny's dropping in. I know he hit up the chat.
He's almost dropping.
But, do you want to jump into the Infinity War trailer? Might as well.
Yeah, sure.
Let's do it.
So,
like I said, I've literally only seen it once.
Right, I saw it one time and then got it out of my system. Like, I'm not going to watch it and overanalyze it just yet. I don't want to. I wanted to get an initial first reaction for it. Who wants to dive in first?
It looks like just like I thought it would look.
Quiet.
Epic.
Yeah?
Everything. Well, I mean, come on. It's literally like almost every character we've seen in the Marvel Universe. And I don't know. It's just I feel like we get Spider-Man. We get all of these other characters. I just think it's gonna be epic. Epic's like the best word I could probably use to describe it. Have I really watched or overanalyzed and analyzed it at all? No. But just the sheer fact that there's so many fucking things going on in that trailer, and you really can't pinpoint what's where in the story. So it looks epic. It looks huge, and it looks cool. It looks interesting. But I also felt the same way about the Justice League. So, I mean, and I went and saw that. I'm gonna see it anyway, so it really isn't.
Peace out, guy.
Bye, guy.
Bye, guy.
Oh, God, hello. I say hello to you.
It was exciting because it's almost kind of like as exciting as any other large crossover that we've seen in like the media. Like you get to see some of your favorite characters collide with some other characters to confront some sort of situation that's bigger than one character or another. I hope that because there are so many characters in this film that none of them are downplayed. I feel like the Avengers is already a group of 6?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, right? And
more than that at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then there's Spider-Man, there's the Black Panther, there's the 5 in the Guardian of the Galaxy.
More because they have Nebula and some other freaking person. Wasn't there a new no?
James Gunn's character.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Is with the Guardians, I think.
Yeah. So I hope that none of them
get dumped. I'm with you.
Get dumped. We like to see the little I am group comments every once in a while, and it's important for all those characters to be developed in some way or another. But it could potentially be a very long movie or a very short mess.
Wow.
True. Agreed. Wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
Liz, I have nothing to disagree with on that one.
Though I didn't rewatch it, someone on Facebook argued that the trailer for Marvel movies as of late have been better than the movies themselves. And to some
someone's a fanboy.
Oh, they're super fanboys because I've been hearing nothing but the DC fanboys going, "Oh, Justice League," and you know that this entire thing has been like going on for a while with Justice League dropping and but this and that.
Oh yeah.
I'm over the fanboy bullshit. I am over the fan. You see all this shit on my wall? Point at a Marvel thing behind you. You can't. They're on this wall, but you can't point it behind this wall. Why? Because I love Batman. Not that I love DC. I love Batman. Batman's my guy. But not to say that I don't respect the other franchises. I can enjoy what I enjoy. They're taking it so fucking it has literally become the new age Sharks and Jets.
Oh boy.
It's annoying to that same degree of Sharks and Jets.
That's an apt
description
comparison.
Yeah.
Though not one I would have jumped to immediately, but
no,
I understand.
I mean, absolutely not. But it's gotten ridiculous where people are so quick to jump down the other franchise's throat, and it's but I thought we were supposed to just all get along and enjoy the fact that
why can't we
just enjoy the fact that there are heroes and the characters that we grew up with are on the screen?
Yes. Hallelujah. Right. Say it again for the people in the back, motherfucker.
Why can't we just enjoy them for the characters finally being on the screen that we've been dying to see on the big screen since we were fucking children? Since our parents were children. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Why are we sitting here at each other's throats? My stuff is better than your stuff. Are they making us money? Are they contributing to no.
I don't get paid to defend people.
Right. Last I checked, I'm not a lawyer.
A security guard.
I'm not your PR guy.
No.
So why am I sitting here, Justice League and Avengers? Listen, I may not for instance, I don't like both Avengers movies, but I loved, and still love Civil War and even more so Winter Soldier. Love those movies. But the first two Avenger movies, I wasn't feeling. Civil War, I tell people jokingly and halfway seriously that
it's Avengers 2.5.
Yeah. It's the better Avengers movie.
Yes, because there's actually a goddamn plot to it.
Right.
Well, it makes Captain America movies more interesting because Captain America movies were
really.
Yeah, they were political thrillers.
Yeah.
I didn't really love Captain America movies. I will say, I think that Iron Man movies probably had the most depth in terms of their themes. I think we've talked about this before.
Yeah.
Except for the third one. The third one was a dumpster fire.
Yes.
In most respects, yes. I really appreciate how they made Tony suffer from something. From PTSD.
No, I agree on that one.
Absolutely.
That's a credit to his character because, it's almost kind of like looking at Iron Man 3 and his PTSD about, fighting these aliens from these other worlds from the Avengers movies, and now going against Galactus, excuse me.
Oh my, no, that would definitely be Avengers. That would be an Avengers thing right there. I'd love to see that shit.
Yeah, that'd be great.
Oh my god, yeah.
The Silver Surfer show up, they fight the Surfer and Galactus.
And all that, but having these normal mortal characters go against, Thanos and take on these entities from space and other planets and stuff, it's a little bit beyond Stark. It's a lot beyond Stark, and he's the only one who seems to kind of grasp that. Everyone else has this very, very gung-ho, can-do attitude, like it's a normal work day, and he's the only one questioning.
Which is even crazy to think because you're saying it's almost to the same degree of Batman's the only one without powers.
Mm-hmm.
But essentially, in this universe, he's not the only one without powers. Because to be fair, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Black Widow, and Tony all don't have powers, but yet Hawkeye's over here like bing 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 bing, as if it's nothing, and he's like,
he also makes reference. He's like, I shouldn't even fucking be here. I got a bow and arrow.
Yeah, he's right. He's like, I got a bow and arrow, and all this shit is happening. None of this makes any sense. Like,
yeah,
you know, he doesn't seem too rattled about it. He kind of comes to the choice to kind of like do something about it very quickly. But I think that it's interesting to show that there are character flaws and character fears in such powerful characters, because Iron Man is essentially the driving force of the entire Marvel Cinematic Universe. You get what I'm saying? And
well, to use one of your words, he's the anchor point.
Exactly. So for him to have such, not human traits, I guess, because he's human, but to have such grounded traits in the reality of the situations that are happening within this universe makes the universe all the more enjoyable to watch, because we know that there's going to be consequences, be it physical, psychological, things like that. Like, these are very, very interesting things to watch develop. And I haven't really seen that in the DC universe yet. Like, everyone seems to be, like, inconsequentially unbothered by the things that are kind of, like, happening to them, with the exception of maybe, like, Wonder Woman. Maybe. But she's positive about what she sees. She just wants to keep fighting, keep going. But no one else seems to be bothered by the fact that these things are happening.
I don't know, Bat seems fairly concerned.
Only because Superman. He's not concerned about it. Well, I haven't seen Justice League, so I can't really make comment on that. But from what I've watched, he doesn't really seem to be concerned about this whole new world opening up where there are other, I don't want to say superpowered people, other people who are of power. You get what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't really have as much of an issue dealing with Wonder Woman surfacing as he does with Superman surfacing. You get what I'm saying? Like, he doesn't try to fight her based on, like, her ideology, because she's literally what Bruce has been fighting against, the representation of. You get what I'm saying? So Bruce is basically saying that, you know, you shouldn't be a god, and, you know, you being here is a threat to the autonomy of the people of this planet. When he sees Superman, and he, it's ironic because that's not necessarily the case, but Wonder Woman is literally, like, the embodiment of that sort of character. You get what I'm saying? In female form, I think. And he doesn't fight her on who she is or what she represents. Like, none of it, I don't know, it just didn't pan out very well for me.
No, I agree with you on that. I very much agree with you on that, and I've said it before and I'll say it again. The whole fucking DCU wouldn't have this problem if they didn't try to shoehorn the whole universe into fucking Man of Steel.
I don't think that was the best starting point. You could have started with something else. Superman.
Well, I mean, Superman would have been fine to start with, but
it's one of those things
not such a radical interpretation that Zack Snyder had, because I mean, it went against a large chunk of the reason why I liked that movie, why I liked Man of Steel a lot, was because it wasn't the cookie cutter Boy Scout, you know, can do no evils, you know, that sort of deal. Like, he was human. I mean, he was an alien, obviously, but he had human qualities. He had emotions. He had inner battles that he was trying to fight, and he had to make the best decisions with the information that he had. You know, he wasn't perfect, which is why I liked that Superman. But a lot of people didn't like that movie because he wasn't a Boy Scout. And
it's hard to like Superman because he is a Boy Scout. You get what I'm saying? That's the reason why I don't like Superman. Because
I'm right there with you on that one.
So
but like I said, that's why I liked Man of Steel, because he wasn't that.
That was exactly why I appreciated it, and I kind of, you know, it was good to see Superman in that light. You get what I'm saying?
Indeed. Batman should have been younger, and they shouldn't have fought each other at the very beginning. They should have just had Man of Steel, and they should have done a Batman or a Wonder Woman movie. They should have just introduced a couple of introduce the Trinity, have each one of them have their own movie, and then they can bring the rest of everybody together again for Justice League, like War or something like that.
Or they can do something like what Thor did, what they're doing with Hulk in the Marvel Universe. Hulk doesn't have any standalone movies. He's just kind of pieced together.
Well, he's not allowed to, though.
Okay, I have something to say about that, but
still,
the Hulk has a really, really interesting story, although it plays out over the course of like other people's stories. Like, the problem with the Hulk is that because the Marvel universe is so based in realism to a certain extent, Hulk is considerably overpowered. Like, without the Hulk, the Avengers had no chance in the first Avengers movie, right? Like, as soon as the Hulk showed up, the conflict was ended. You get what I'm saying? Like, they literally specified, well, you have an army, we have a Hulk.
Which is crazy to think because they have Thor. And by comparison...
True, but Thor wasn't really at his most powerful. I mean, it took to this last movie to really get him to, like, the holy shit level. Like, okay.
Thor is to Wonder Woman as Hulk is to Superman.
Yes.
In terms of power.
Kind of. I'll say in terms of plot importance. Like, they try very, very hard in most of these movies to keep Hulk in one place, because they know that is the defining, like, that turns the tide in most of the issues that they face. You get what I'm saying? So Hulk is almost kind of like that Deus Ex Machina, like, that comes in and saves the day. He's like almost more powerful. Well, yes, he is, but he's almost more important to the plot than most of the other characters in their development. Like, it almost makes no sense, but you know, you kind of have to fit his overpowered, like, storytelling to fit the underpowered people like Captain America. Like, I don't know. I appreciate how they keep him in one place and try not to over-centralize the Avengers on him, but I hate how, because he's, like, the answers to the problems, it's so obvious when they show it on screen. Like, without Hulk, they just kind of struggle and suffer, and it's just... And even what you said about Thor, about him just now becoming as powerful as he is, I think that it took him all of his movies to become as important. I think that he's always been as powerful because he's been doing the same things the entire set. I think that he's now important now because he's the king of Asgard. You get what I'm saying? He survived the entire thing when it comes to, like, his sister and Loki and his father and the entire Asgard as a place. Like, he is the representation.
And it also started from, like, a place where he was an irresponsible, like, young, just like, super arrogant, cocky, like, kind of personality. So now,
I mean, really, in a bunch of ways, he still is.
Yeah, all the time.
No, absolutely, but it's a lot. It comes from a place where, like, he's definitely had his share of humble pie. Like, he's had to like.
Oh, I'm not denying that.
Fall down and then be like, all right, I earned this to be able to, like, puff up my chest. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that.
Otherwise, like, I don't see him to showboat and to showboat. You know, to be fair.
I feel like Thor is probably the least interesting character of the bunch when it comes to the Marvel universe. I find his movies to be entertaining, but only in that.
Are we talking, like, out of the people who've had movies to, or just characters in general? He's the least entertaining.
I feel like characters in general, outside of maybe Black Widow, because she's there, but she's not really there. You know what I mean? Like, there's not really much you can say about her. But
Okay.
Thor's probably...
Which sucks, because I would like to have a solo.
I know,
Black
right?
movie.
Like, she seems to be an integral part of the team, but she doesn't really get much story. But I think that Thor's
Like,
probably the most bland character there is. I don't know.
Like, I'd love to see like her as an assassin, like fucking, like, globe-trotting assassin doing all this crazy shit.
Yeah. It'd be interesting. Maybe they can include, like, Weapon X in some of her, you know, themes or whatever she goes against, like, whatever. Like, it'd be
that's us wishing that Fox and Marvel can play nice with each other, which I don't think is ever going to happen at this point.
Isn't there a deal talking about how Disney's about to buy Fox?
They were talking, but it was...
Yeah, well, it went back on. I just saw an article today about it. It's talks are back on, and they're getting closer to a deal.
Mm-hmm. So
let's hope. But all right, Fox is bought by Marvel. Let's think about this realistically. Either they get bought back fully, they have a Sony deal, or they have a limited deal, like even more limited deal, like they have with Hulk for Paramount. How does this play out with the characters that we now have for X-Men, Fantastic Four, Silver Surfer, Galactus, like, and characters like, how does this play out in the overall big picture that's being painted for Marvel? Does that...
Well, I mean, that could be anything.
Because they're so close to the Infinity that it can, like you say, like, be rebooted without even, like, you know...
It would be... The reboot would be part of the story.
Right. Mm-hmm. But...
I'd like to see that.
How would that affect the current Fox timeline?
Well,
Fox or even to let's put out there Deadpool. Like, how would Disney's... Because granted that Marvel and Netflix has let Punisher be as gritty and brutal and just badass as he can be, but are they going to allow this on the big screen? Because Netflix is a whole separate body. Are they going to allow Deadpool to live in that same entity that he did in his first movie?
If they're fucking smart, they will.
If they're smart, they will. But we
know
people. You know, common sense is a common.
I'll say this: if the deal does go through, I think that it'll be a lot easier for Disney to utilize Fox's assets in terms of like their licenses and characters. So we may see a lot more of, the important characters. We might actually get X-Men characters in the new Marvel vs. Capcom game, for instance, right? We also might see a lot more representation when it comes to other superheroes that might be under, the licenses of other people like Fox.
Like, we would see Storm actually marry
Venom, things like that.
We would see Storm with Black Panther, like they should be.
That'd be amazing.
Which would be
or
great.
We can even actually get an X-Men versus Avengers movie,
which would be
pretty
epic. Yeah.
But I feel like the X-Men would just destroy the Avengers.
Depending on what version of the Avengers we have, because
right. Because we also now deal with. There's been multiple iterations of the Avengers, and even now, with groups like the Defenders, with the Avengers, with the new Avengers that we kind of see now with Spidey, Ant-Man, Falcon, War Machine, like they're the newer Avengers, like how that may or may not, be formidable against the X-Men.
Well, also you got to think about what X-Men has in store too, when it comes to like the characters. You get what I'm saying?
Would that also bring in Legion?
He's in the Netflix series.
Legion is FX. But it's still a Fox, I think, like license thing.
Legion would definitely come in.
I feel like Legion is because he's an Omega level mutant.
So is Jean Grey.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I mean,
we were talking about on another episode. So is Reed Richards' son,
Jericho?
Not Jericho. You gonna get it? If you're out there, let us know.
No, it's.
Whoa! The Hutch man is watching.
Oh, hey!
What's going on, Hutch? Disney will probably keep their main MCU clean of R-style characters. You could only have a brief glimpses of them at best. And Croc from the Block is in the building.
Of course Croc is.
Franklin Richards, yes.
The most powerful mutant ever.
He created pocket universes.
Yes.
By thinking of it.
First of all, can we get a Mr. M? Does anyone know who Mr. M is? The mutant? The Omega level mutant?
I've heard of him. I don't remember who he is, though.
Listen, look him up. When I tell you, if you think that Franklin Richards is the most powerful mutant, Mr. M is the precursor to that.
Really?
Yes.
Oh, the Hutch man is watching you.
There we go.
Yeah, brother.
Yeah, brother. Oh.
Yeah, they killed his character off though, which is kind of upsetting. But he was basically able to alter everything.
Okay. Well, in the same sense of Scarlet Witch, how she did it, or
not necessarily
even
manipulating like chance or like anything like that, but literally, I'm gonna go to the Wikipedia page and I'll tell you right now. So, just look at all of these things that he can, that they list that he can do, right? So he's got subatomic manipulation, healing. He can control machinery, X-factor negation. All these things, right? Like he can pretty much That's in charge of creation.
That's a long list, and then they list strength level,
average,
but like, yeah, okay.
I mean, they tend to kill characters off who can do too much, especially when it comes to subatomic like manipulation. They don't keep too many of those characters around, and they don't develop them very far, which is why Franklin Richards is still a child.
Okay.
Or why Hope Richards, Jesus Christ, Hope Summers is just now, after all these years, after being introduced, just now growing into a standalone-ish character.
That's right, yeah.
Yeah, like, they try not to, I don't know. I wish they would give more human aspects or more stories to these powerful characters.
Well, but that also goes into where timelines for comics are being constantly retconned and rebooted, but they also like, because like if the kids and people in comics aged the way we did, a lot of the characters would be like 200 at this point or some craziness like that. So they age them to a certain degree unless some crisis or event happens where they end up redoing their story and they start back at 30 in whatever cases, and they keep them more or less in that, like...
Yeah, well, Professor X and Wolverine aged very gracefully.
Apparently they're bringing Wolverine back, which I find crazy because, like, from what I've been hearing, I haven't read it yet, but X-23 as the new Wolverine has been doing really well, and people love her, and for them to bring Wolverine back from the dead is like, why?
After Old Man Logan.
Yeah.
Well, he's popular.
And apparently they kept Old Man Logan alive. Or they kept one version of him alive, and from what I saw in one of the preview whatevers, it's him and another version of him facing each other, kind of thing. Where it was like, oh, I thought you died.
They confuse me when they put characters from one place in time against another character, the same character from a different place in time. Like, it makes it kind of hard to appreciate the character, like this constant killing and reviving and duplicates and clones thing. Like, it makes good stories, I guess, but for Wolverine, I think that the character is extremely popular, so they're going to do whatever they can to franchise him for as long as possible.
But there's a new Wolverine. Tommy, you said this to some degree in a previous episode. It might have been in our previous cast, where lineage is where we should go in terms of developing new characters, but keeping a lot of the attributes and the history of these characters alive.
For sure.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Pretty much. It should be, just hand down mantles. Like, I think they should have new characters take on the mantles of older characters. I think a lot of people should just, it's not the character that you had, but why, no one seems to give a shit that there were, if you count all of them that have been used, there are like 6 or 7 Robins. You've had 4 Flashes. You've had several Green Lanterns. I don't know. I don't see why people get all upset about having new people being the same mantle or something similar to that mantle.
I like the mantle idea. I think that it's interesting to see those stories develop, especially when they happen so like Miles Morales in the Ultimate Spider-Man, or
Riri Williams with Ironheart.
Exactly. You know what I'm saying? So you see them together, and then you see the actual transference of power as a literary technique. Spider-Man, Peter Parker dies in one issue. Miles Morales struggles with whether or not to become the new Spider-Man, and another issue, then he eventually grows into that, to take the mantle. And other people kind of encourage him too. They were telling him that they need a Spider-Man. You should be the next one. So it's nice to see those things, although it can, be discouraging when you get attached to titular characters like Peter Parker for many, many years. People love Peter Parker, and a lot of people don't like other versions of Spider-Man because he's not Peter Parker. Do you get what I'm saying? So
which I think is stupid.
Yeah, I think it's crazy too. But people get attached to these names and these characters that they see develop over the years. We've already seen it when it comes to characters like Riri. I don't know anybody else who could be Iron Man or anything like that, but I'd like to think that this new girl would be an interesting take on Iron Man, on the Iron Man mythos. You get what I'm saying?
Well, yeah. I mean, I've read the series for a little while. It's the only Marvel book that I read at this point, and it's interesting. It's good because, she's basically just a female version of Tony Stark when he was he was a fucking MIT graduate at 14. She's wicked smart, and she has had a bunch of shit happen to her already in her life, so she is sort of determined to try and make things better for everybody else around her. And Tony Stark physically picks her and says, "Yeah, you should be the next one." And he's her suit's Jarvis. So even the people that were worried about not having a Tony Stark in I think it's the Ultimate Iron Man or whatever the hell series it's under, you still get Tony Stark. So I don't see what the problem is. You physically have Tony Stark picking a protege and then uploading his consciousness to be her Jarvis and her suit and teach her how to be Iron Man or Ironheart. And she's obviously going to put her own spin on how she does things, and her personality is going to dictate different things than what Tony would do. But that's the point. It's still Iron Man. She still has those abilities, or she still has the suit, and she's able to do these things. But it's a different point of view, which is sort of what you want. You don't have the same fucking... Why has Tony Stark been 30 years old for the last fucking 50 years?
Because so now it's this young girl with new stories, and I think because she's a completely not a palette swap, but she's the complete reverse and the complete opposite. She's like a foil.
I see what you did.
Yeah. She's a young black girl.
Yeah.
And I think that there are a lot of interesting stories that can come with that. I mean, not specifically because, well, I guess yes, specifically because she's black, but because she's young and because she's a girl. That she can tell all kinds of stories that resonate within, the universe for the readers. You get what I'm saying? Especially because we're getting to see a lot more black superheroes, which is always great, but a lot of them aren't mainstream. A lot of them are becoming more mainstream. Like in the last 20 years, Power Man or Luke Cage hasn't gotten really a lot of play, but now he's one of the most popular superheroes out there, visibly, because he's on Netflix and his show is doing so well. You get what I'm saying?
We even gotten, when Cap died in his series, passing it to Falcon as opposed to Bucky was a really big deal because everyone's like, oh, it should go with Bucky, but then him passing it to Falcon, us seeing that is a real, notch in the belt or win in our book.
It's almost the equivalent of having a black Superman.
Yeah.
Or, anything like that. And I appreciate the fact that they kind of, give credit to these black or racially different characters. Jesus Christ. The difference between the black Green Lantern and the white one. You get what I'm saying?
Between Hal and...
John. Yeah. There's a difference between them, and there's a story to be had with them. Even when it came to, I don't want to use race as an example. When they change the race of certain established characters, they kind of make more stories for people to enjoy that are different. You get what I'm saying? So it's just kind of like it changes the narrative a little bit. It almost makes people believe that anybody can be these superheroes, and that's kind of the point of superheroes existing in the first place. Like we want to run to these people and feel like we can be these people, but it's harder and harder for us to do that when the same characters are being portrayed all the time in the same ways over and over and over again. Like I never felt like I could be Peter Parker. You get what I'm saying? I never, you know what I mean? Like I never really gravitated towards who Peter Parker was. I mean, I liked him because he was from New York, and he was young like I was when I was growing up, and he was smart. But, you know, over time, it's just kind of like, what else can you do with that same person? There's only but so much story you can tell with Aunt May and Uncle Ben, Mary Jane. You know what I'm saying? Like, who else can he make friends with, or who else can he live a life with? You know, he's just now married Mary Jane. You get like just now. So it's just like, oh, finally, after like 50 years of being a real character and being attached to this girl.
Well, no, he's been married to Mary Jane before.
Yeah, I mean, just recently, I think that they made a development with that in terms of his story, but I don't know. I like the evolution and the storytelling that happens when characters kind of like change and grow and transform into new people. I think it's always nice. I think they should do that consistently.
Absolutely. It should be realistic with the times. I mean, like that's part of the reason why I like Doctor Who, because I mean, you know, the actor's going to be the Doctor for only a certain amount of years, and then someone else, the Doctor's going to change. Mm-hmm. So the Doctor's going to be a chick this time around, which is cool. Like I'm pumped for that. But that's what they should do with all of the characters, like. You know, Batman
they
shouldn't always
set, like beginning to end story. You get what I'm saying? I don't think that. I think that it's important to have that, like an ending goal in sight. When you write a character, you can like write out a progression from here to there, and then pass the mantle afterwards. You get what I'm saying? A lot of the characters that we have in our comics community don't really have an end in mind. Like they're just stories after stories after stories, and there's no end in sight for them unless they die.
Also, most of these characters have multiple books that they're in.
Yeah. So, like Cyclops, for example. Cyclops actually has like a progression in terms of like who he is and where he goes. Like he now has. Well, he's dead now, I think. I gotta read back up on that, but I mean, it's nice to see that he's been married and he's been divorced. He has kids and. He's had he's become the leader of the X-Men, and he's been against them, and he's done this and that. Like, he has a diverse set of stories, and people hate him, but I love him.
Yeah, well, Cyclops is totally one of those characters you love him or you hate him. Mm-hmm. There's no in between for Cyclops.
Yeah, Cyclops is a complete dick, but the stories that are being told about him and because of him are amazing to me.
Amen. Where did Law go? Oh, there he is.
There you go.
Bathroom break.
Bathroom break.
Bathroom break. You get those?
You get them too. You just have to tag yourself out.
Tag.
It's easier when there's more than one person.
Yes. Yes, it is. Very, very much easier.
Do you need a bathroom break?
Oh, no, just my ass is falling asleep, that's all.
Oh, man.
Oh, goodness.
How was your Thanksgiving, by the way?
It was good.
Huh?
It was good. Because I was with the wife's family this year, so.
Right.
It was good. Lots of lasagna.
Nice.
Mm-hmm. Gotta have that lasagna.
All the time.
Oh, dude, no lie, like
stacked. Sheesh.
Dude,
wow, how many layers?
Huge. Oh, I don't even know. So many layers.
Crazy.
The pan was just like this huge fucking. It was crazy. It was awesome.
Deep dish.
Pretty much. It had to be like 5-6 inches tall, like. It was a big ass.
Wow, that's a cake.
No, that's just the lasagna.
That's a lasagna cake. Like that's like Like a wedding tear.
It's on your cake.
That's
hell yeah.
crazy.
What about you guys?
It was chill. I was up with the family with Zance's mom, my sister. Siblings. 4 out of 5 siblings ain't bad. Cousins, nieces, and nephews, and the whole shebang. It was nice. It was cool. It was short. Like I feel like because I got off all of last week. Like somehow, like all of my lessons were just like, yeah, we're out. And I was like, oh, I guess I have this week off. And then, like, the time leading up into Thanksgiving took a while. And then when it got to Thanksgiving, it was fast. And then it was Friday. And I was just like, I've been looking forward to this all year. And, like, it just happened and it's gone. But it was definitely nice. It was worth it. I may or may not be at my sister's place for Christmas. But it was nice. There's pictures if you look at my profile and whatnot.
Conscious.
Hold on. Because Crocton Block sent me a message, and he said he wants me to read his comment.
Oh, let's see what he's got.
Oh no.
Prince Harry is marrying someone of color and receiving massive backlash, while Marvel makes one of the smartest characters a person of color, and we embrace with open arms. USA, USA, USA.
Oh yeah, Riri Wilson is probably the smartest person in the Marvel universe now. Yeah,
absolutely.
I did read that somewhere.
Oh wow, Jim O'Reilly is in the chat. What's up? What's going on, Jim?
Yo, Jimbo.
What's going on?
Jimbo.
Yeah. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't know. Race relations and breaking out of like social norms kind of drives people crazy. I don't understand why that is. Like, I never understood why that was. I guess I'm more open-minded.
I come from a mixed family, so like I'm a mutt.
We all do. Yeah.
No,
that's not true.
He's somewhat mutt.
Sort of. Where are your parents from, Tom?
Yeah.
You're French, Canadian, and Irish?
Welsh, Irish, Norwegian. My mother's like a mutt of like the British Isles in Northern Europe.
There you go.
My mother's side, my father's side is probably half that and then French Canadian. So I'm just white.
But those are different cultures, different societies.
They are. I wish I knew which cultures they were. But mostly French. I just embrace the French.
French has a delicious culture. I mean, not delicious.
Yes, it is actually delicious ass food. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, I use that in the most like non-food way possible. I think that I've studied the French language for a few years in school, so you get to learn all of these really nice things about the culture and really interesting things. Although they've had a muddy culture as well. Like,
who hasn't, bro?
Listen,
like, if we're fair,
there's no peaceful civilization out there.
Right.
Not really. That's not true. I wouldn't say that. That's ignorant to say. But
the history books are written by the victors.
That's all I'll say about that. And then the novels are written by the slaves or the captors of the victors. So, those are the real history books.
I'll drink to that.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, French culture is really, really interesting. The language is amazing. Much easier than English.
Oh yes, the Frenchman there,
Yes,
The Quebecois, yeah. Go down to 95,
Kind of.
2 or 3 hours.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah. Yes.
On the docket left for today and leading into next week?
Oh, I don't even know, brother. Ooh, I know we get the new Jurassic World movie trailer is coming out tomorrow.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's right. I mean, okay. Before we get too either excited or, you know, like, pensive about it. Are we, like, with it? Are we, like, actually, like, yeah, let's see what happens with this? Or are we, like, there's no need for something that we never asked for? Like,
I don't even care.
Because, you know, to be fair... Like,
I don't care one way or the other. If it's like, cool, great. If it's not, meh.
We got the Mummy that tanked this year. I didn't even watch it. And
I could have told you from the beginning, if you have fucking Tom Cruise in a Mummy reboot, it's gonna fail.
Right. Well, remember, I went to Vegas earlier this year, and I heard about their whole plan for a big monster cinematic...
No, that's not happening anymore.
And they tanked it after that. And I was just like, is it the dawn of, like, us trying to do big shared universes, and are we over it? Are we, like, right now at the point where it's like, enough is enough? Like, this is...
I don't think everything needs to have a shared universe, but there are certain things that do well. You know, like Marvel and DC, yeah, I think that they would do well if done the right way in a shared universe, because they were originally created as part of a shared universe. So, you know, that's how they were, but you shouldn't create everything into a shared universe. Like, it doesn't need to be that way.
I'm noticing more about that, and I can give you some examples outside of comic book stories that have worked and not worked. For example, what was that movie that was Unbreakable and then split? We didn't see.
We talked about that last time.
Oh yeah, M. Night Shyamalan. Yeah.
Yeah, so that works, I guess.
Oh, for sure.
That worked, and it was a pleasant surprise. Like, oh, this is part of the Unbreakable universe. So that's plot twist. But
although, I mean, just on that one, a quick side note on that. This is sort of on topic. I'm gonna start doing what Danny does. And if you really look at the way that it was shot, like between the two shows, it was shot with the same color palette in the same way that they shot Unbreakable. But I mean, it's been like 10, 15 years since Unbreakable, so no one remembers.
Yeah. So, you know, I think that was nice. You know, the Harry Potter crossovers with Fantastic Beasts and things like that is always interesting, because you get more out of the universes due to, like, the demand, and the universe is so large. So that works very well. I'm not really a fan of the universes that are being created with, like, Annabelle and that sort of thing. Like, I mean, I see how they work, and they're interesting together, but I'm not really as jazzed up about them.
Annabelle has a shared universe?
Yeah. With The Conjuring.
Annabelle is like the precursor to Conjuring or something like that?
Yeah, something like that.
Annabelle is the precursor to Conjuring. Like, for instance, if Dark Tower were to do well, which it didn't, which is unfortunate, because despite its best efforts, it wasn't bad. It was decent.
It wasn't a bad movie. I've never said that it was a bad movie, but because I've never read the books, and you got to assume that a large chunk of the people that are going to go see it probably haven't read the books. Like, that's what I would assume. And for the people that have read the books, if I was making the movie, I would assume most people that are going to go see this probably haven't read the books, or probably haven't read all the books, or might have a general idea of what it is, but maybe we should at least explain a little bit more than what they gave us in that 90 minutes worth of film, to give me a reason to become attached to these characters, to give me a reason to give a shit. Like, that's all I wanted.
Is that I think they started the Dark Tower is about the second book in the series. It's not even about the first book. So you kind of lose.
Oh wait.
Yeah, you kind of lose some of the.
See, I never would have known that.
Dropping knowledge. See, this is why we need you. We needed him like 20 episodes ago for shit.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, they didn't give me any information to go on. How the fuck am I supposed to know this is from the first? This is supposed to be essentially the second book of the series, or something close to that.
It works like the Narnia movies, the Chronicles of Narnia. The first film was The Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe, and I think that was like the second or third book before they.
Yeah, they skipped.
They skipped.
The Silver Chair, I think.
Yeah, something like that, and then they went to like they didn't even do all of the movies for every book. Like, they kind of went to like
Prince
Caspian, and like they kind of skipped a few over them, but the movie worked because it was a strong enough film to establish the universe in which it was casted. You get what I'm saying? Like, we care about the witch and Aslan and the characters and the wardrobe and Narnia itself. We can kind of get that. The story was credited to creating this universe, although it's not the first book in
the series. Yeah,
so we can kind of get that. But the Dark Tower, you lose a little bit of narrative because it's the second book. Like, imagine if Harry Potter started at the second book. We wouldn't know anything about Harry. He'd just be in school with his classmates, and he'd be going through these things that you kind of find out later on are important. Films have to kind of like pick and choose where like to start and where to like narrate the important parts. Like, you could have thrown those narrative aspects into it and gave us a better understanding, but they didn't.
I'd also like to throw out there, I mean, they could have gone a little longer than 90 minutes.
True.
Like, I could have gone for, like, make it like honestly, I would have sat for a 2.5-hour movie if they gave me a bunch. Like, I would have liked to seen the gunslinger war and the battle between them and the Man in Black. I would have liked to seen a little bit more about why the Man in Black was the way he was and why he wanted those. Like, give me like you were saying, give me a reason to get attached to these characters. I went in there wanting to be attached to these characters, but I didn't have anything to hold on to. It was just like, okay, Gunslinger's pissed about his dad because the Man in Black killed him, and then now the Man in Black wants to destroy the entirety of the universe, and it's this little boy is somehow involved, and there's going to be a father-son aspect between the two, and that's pretty much what I got. But I don't know why I need to care about all of these things.
Do you think how the first movie was left off, and how uncertain, like, as far as like reception goes and sales went, do you think they'll get a second movie?
If they do, I seriously hope that they flesh it out more.
Yeah, if they did get a second movie, it'd be their chance to rectify the issues with the first one.
Because Stephen King does have his own shared universe. Like, all of his books are connected. So even if you try to do a movie and not try to connect it to the next movie, it's all connected to begin with. But Dark Tower is apparently the anchor point for all those movies.
Seriously?
Apparently.
Mm-hmm.
Because there was reference to the...
There's reference to all of the different books, a lot of the different books, like Christine, The Shining, Pennywise. Yeah, they had all sorts of shit in there. They had a bunch of references to Stephen King books.
I gotta look into that. I didn't really see it.
Yeah, it was like I said, it was an okay movie, but it could have been so much more if there was more story to jump into. Like, I feel like this is, if they were looking for it was billed as this big epic movie, and it wasn't this big epic movie.
What they could have done is meshed maybe the first two books together in a movie that made sense. You start off with some of the narrative from the first book, and then you progress the story with the second book. I don't know. I mean, like, for me, I didn't get to see all of the movie, but I wanted to, like, learn more about it, especially knowing that this is the second book in the series. Like, what is the first book about? Like,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, they did that with, the Shannara Chronicles that they had on, I think it was, like, fucking MTV or something like that. The series was the second book in the series. The TV show was the second book. The whole first book was about the father, the blonde elf dude that's helping the princess. The whole first book is about his father and his uncle, like, saving all of Shannara or something like that.
What they might do with those sort of things is make prequels. I noticed that prequels are kind of prevalent in the media now, especially with big movies like The Lord of the Rings and Planet of the Apes, things like that. Like, prequels kind of happen. I'm not in love with them because they seem to be more... they seem to almost, by accident, retcon some of the stuff in the first movie. But, I feel like there may be a chance for something like that to happen with Dark Tower. Maybe they'll give you this set of information, and they'll kind of, like, give you the prequel, and then take it from there. I don't know. Here's hoping.
Oh, no. Fingers crossed. Fingers crossed.
I do like those the Star Trek movies that they've been doing these last few years, though. I think that those Star Trek movies have been great.
Yeah.
I'd like to see another one.
We'll
see if we get that.
As far as a shared universe, or at least a continuity, like they've been getting it right for the most part.
Yeah. It feels right. Like even I haven't watched Star Trek for a long time. My mother was really into that growing up, but it just feels like something I'm interested in now. Like I don't even know all of the story, but it feels like nothing's missing or loose. You know?
Yeah.
So I like it. I wish.
Amen.
I wish they would get it right with some of these other goddamn films. We are introducing these franchises to new generations. Like, again, it's a hard task, but
or make up better fucking stories.
Yeah.
Make up better original stories, then you don't have to fucking steal from fandoms that don't necessarily want their shit being made into movies.
It's a lot of fan fiction going on, and it's just being made into movies these days.
$80 for you.
It's like, oh, why come up with our own shit when I can just buy your shit? And if it doesn't do well, then it was somebody else's fault.
Awful.
Fuck that.
I don't know what else is out, but I don't know. I'm not too interested in going to the movies to see much these days.
Yeah, there's only a handful of things I usually go to see, but outside of that, I don't see the point at this juncture.
No, and I'm kind of disappointed that a lot of the movies that I wanted to see kind of tanked, like Terminator. I wish they would stop killing that franchise the way they are. It makes me so sad. Terminator.
Agreed.
Terminator 2 was my favorite movie ever, and I think that it should have probably ended there. But they keep doing these horrible things to it, and it's just making me upset. It's just so sad. You know, like, oh, Linda Hamilton is, going to be reprising her role. Why? Don't. Oh God. I love Linda Hamilton. I just wish that she didn't wait so long to recast her. Like, if you're gonna do a sequel like to Terminator 2, why not just? Oh, I know, because James Cameron, the director of the movie, and her had a divorce. They were together. They were married. That's why she was.
That's right. I looked at you and I was like, wait. Isn't there there was a valid reason? And then as soon as you said it, I was like, oh, that makes sense.
Yeah.
Fucking crazies.
And also, I think that Linda Hamilton has a health condition that's keeping her from.
Yeah.
It's either cancer or something like that.
I don't know if it's cancer, but I think it is something life-threatening or something.
Yeah, it's cancer or lupus or which is odd because that's what they had killed Sarah Connor off with in Terminator 3. They were like, oh, she died from leukemia. That's horrible.
Right.
Awful. I wish that these films would get better, though. I'm really interested in seeing if they're going to make, I guess, The Last Airbender 2.
No.
I just want them to do
it.
I just want them to do it right.
No. He was doing so well. I apologize for him making that. He was doing so well, and now we can probably never have him on this again.
No, you can definitely come back on again.
Thank you.
Yeah, right?
Wow.
They shouldn't make a little live action movie. They shouldn't. They shouldn't even touch that franchise. What they should do is they should convince the creators of the original animated series to write a new fucking animated series about, say, I don't know, Earthbender Avatar.
What happened to the
just
idea,
go through the whole fucking cycle.
What happened to the idea that they were going to be Earthbending twins?
That was the rumor.
That they were the new Avatar. I was so with it.
That was the rumor. I think that would be fantastic, and I would totally watch that fucking show whenever it came on.
Well, I love the show to begin with. Korra was pretty alright.
I liked Korra a lot. Once you got past the whole whiny teenager thing in the first fucking season.
You have people who are, like, Avatar fans, but then, like, when you ask them, did you like Korra or Aang's, like, story more, the divide is so crazy. Like I never really thought about it. I never saw it until maybe like a year or so after Korra wrapped, and I realized like you realize how different the shows are and what they were meant to portray, but you also realize like the extent of where like people feel like, yo, like this was better or this meant more for me and what have you, and I didn't see that until way later on.
Yeah, I wouldn't rate Korra's adventures as high as Aang's adventures for the simple fact that Aang's adventures had a lot more to do with things that mattered to me. You get what I'm saying? Like, you're the airbender, and for all intents and purposes, you're kind of like the Jesus of that universe. You get what I'm saying? You're meant to kind of bring peace and balance, and you show all of these inhuman abilities with such human traits. Like, Aang had doubts for the longest time, forever, up until maybe like the last couple of episodes where he was like fairly not confident that he was going to be Fire Lord. You know what I'm saying? So like,
yeah,
it's important. Like, there's a humanity in the show that just really isn't particularly present in Korra. Like, there's some, like, she does nice things, but it doesn't really resonate with me as much.
Huh. I don't know. I just feel like it was much more of a different feeling. Like, she was basically she's the Avatar coming after like the greatest Avatar, you know, in the whole line.
Mm-hmm.
So she already had that whole thing to live up to. There were barely any airbenders left. Like, I'm the Avatar, but really, and she's being trained by fucking Aang's son. Like, I mean, I would have the tenacity. I would disagree that they didn't have that same. They didn't have the same type of humanitarian. I can't fucking speak now. The humanity that was involved, like you were talking about, how much they show through in the original one, which I agree with you. That was one of the big reasons why I like that show. But I think it was the same amount of humanity, but it was such a different aspect because very much like the society and culture in the background of both stories, we were seeing them at different ages as well. So Aang. The whole Avatar: The Last Airbender was literally, took place over the course of 3 months. For him to learn all of the other 3 elements and defeat Ozai before the comet came. Like, that was the deal. That was the whole series. And it also had a much longer run episode-wise, so you actually got to see more episodes as well. But Korra, you're seeing it's past the industrial age. There aren't any like straight out, kingdoms in this. They're everyone is sort of a little bit more together. They're unified a little bit more. But you have the whole thing of technology, and she's also not 12 years old. She's 17, 18 years old. And this whole ordeal, as far as I can tell, lasts a couple of years probably, if not more. And you see all this random shit that happens. So, I mean, I'll agree with you. It wasn't the same tone, which is why I think a lot of people like one versus the other. Where, I mean, if you really look back at it, they're both, feeling the same things, but they're looking at it from different perspectives and the different eras that they grew up in. You know what I mean? Yeah. Because Aang came before all the technology, and then he lives another 60-plus years, and then you have all the technology with Korra.
I think that Aang's children are a little underused, but whatever.
Oh, I agree with that, too. I like that whole family. I liked all of them.
Wait, Aang's
and honestly, I think some of the some of the villains I think in Korra were better than the villains in Avatar: The Last Airbender. Like especially the Red Lotus at the end of Korra. Like, I'm sorry, that's some crazy shit. Like, they're going against an airbender that has let go of all human attachment and can literally fly and do whatever the fuck he wants. And they're so detached from everything. Like, not just power-wise, but just, like, ideologically. Like, the Fire Nation just wanted to take over everything. And some of the villains that Korra fought were much more... they were evil on a much bigger scale, on a much... on like a whole different plane. as opposed to some of the characters that we see and some of the villains that we see in Last Airbender.
I think that
at least in my opinion.
I think that it's important. Like the Red Lotus, for example, was kind of, that state of Zen where you're kind of like free from all of these like earthly things. What is that in some other culture? Nirvana, right? In Buddhism, where you're kind of like free. And I think that it was kind of interesting to see that like someone who is kind of like unbothered by like the establishments of like morality or integrity or anything like that can be viewed as such an evil character when they're like literally like neutral to it all. You get what I'm saying? So I just find those interpretations of freedom of choice or exemption from social constructs to be interesting in their portrayal. Like why people who are kind of like not following the rules or standards set by society such bad people to begin with. It just psychologically, like philosophically, is like an interesting look at those in the breakdown of those characters and what that means. Like, should we all be free? Should we all stop caring about social constructs? Like, who would we be if we didn't have these social constructs? And like, what is good and evil based on these social constructs? You know what I mean? So, I think that those are the kind of interesting things that you kind of pick at. They don't really emphasize them, but you kind of like take a critical look at it and you kind of find these things to look at. So, I thought that was pretty cool.
Mm-hmm. Agreed. But, it's late. I'm thinking I should be hitting bed here.
Do it. Let's wrap.
I
think we ended on a good, strong note.
Indeed.
We have dropped Demetrius' links in the chat. Follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube.
10 minutes or less is on iTunes.
Oh, Tommy, yes. If you guys have not been listening to 10 minutes or less, like, do yourself a favor, go listen to that. It is literally just gold, man. Something like you just catch really briefly on your way to work, on your way to the gym, on your way to, like, whatever. And your last episode, I absolutely adored and loved so much. Thank you for that one.
Oh, what? Thanks, bro?
Yes, thanks, bro. Yeah, absolutely. It was so good. Yeah, so, shout out to I am Thomas.
You just go to imtvg.com.
imtvg.com.
I am that beard guy.
I'm that beard guy. Demetrius Lane. I am TAOS by law. We have guys, Mind, Body, and Soul. On Instagram, we have Danny, who wasn't unable to join us today, but successfully
failingsuccessfully.com.
Right.
You want to go to Successfully Failing on YouTube for their. I think they did an Avengers thing, an Avengers episode.
Working on some of that today, yeah. But
so go check that out for sure. Buy some of his art too, his stickers. Get his stickers.
Yes. Support your fellow artists and support your friends.
I love you.
I got one of Chris's stickers.
Nice. As you can see, I have all my friends' art, everywhere. So
Everywhere.
Yeah,
everywhere.
Fucking gorgeous. But we love you guys. Thanks for tuning in, and we will see you guys next week on Oh, I almost did it.
You almost said We the Geek?
I know!
Geek Ronin, kid. Geek Ronin, it's okay. It's okay. We said it for a year and a half, almost 2 years.
You know what it is? It's 2.5, almost 2 years, and at the same time and place. It's wow.
Yeah, Wednesday at 8. We'll see you next time on the same bat channel.
Peace.